We have Woj getting creative with verbs again, folks. We have Jabari Smith atop Houston's draft board at number 3. Shams just confirmed this as well. Jabari Smith will go 3rd to the Houston Rockets. So maybe a little bit of a switch up as far as order goes, but ultimately the top 3 stays the same. Fellas, I can't shake this feeling, and maybe it's the Pistons fan in me being desperate here. I think Jabari Smith's going to be on the move tonight. I really do. I don't think Houston wanted him. I think he's a consolation prize, and I think the Houston Rockets are fielding phone calls right now. T.O., am I crazy for this? Am I just manifesting this?
You might be. But what's going to happen is Houston's going to come out in the press conference and say, we got number 1 pick in the draft. So I don't see how you justify trading Jabari Smith with all the hype and everything coming in, unless you're able to get proven veterans that can go along with Jalen Green and God knows who else is on that roster right now.
And think about it, man. Think about throw out John Wall, because that man is stealing money right now. He's wearing a mask. He's walking into the Houston Rockets office, and he is just saying, give me that money, give me that bag, and I'm leaving, right? He's played 40 games in 3 years and made $120 million. 40 games, $120 million. Great work if you can get it. But you got guys like Jalen Green over there. You got Kevin Porter. What do they need to operate, right? A guy like Jalen Green, as explosive as he is, what's he need? He needs space. What's Jabari Smith going to do? He's going to create space. Now, I don't know if he's ever going to actually get a pass from either of those guys. I don't know if they're driving and kicking. That ain't happening. But he will create space. And I think that is a good fit for Houston. And I also think, look, they're what?
They'll be fun to watch.
They're a year away from being a year away, right?
Yeah. They're 2 years away from being 2 years away.
But here, I will tell you this about Jabari. I'll tell you this about Jabari. I told the CRC when we did a scouting report. T.O., we talked about this. Greg, we talked about this. Jabari, in 5 years, is going to win somebody a playoff series, because I think he's going to be able to play small ball 5. He's going to be that ultimate switchable dude. He can defend. He's a shot blocker. I'm going to get cliche here, but he got that dog in him, RC. Right? He's tougher than people realize. Like he will scrap, he will fight, he will defend, he will make hustle plays defensively. He's probably the best shooter in this draft. Let me ask you guys this. RC, you played off the bounce. T.O., you never played off the bounce. When you have a guy that is bred as a shooter, no, it's serious. Like, we got a great shooter, and we got a guy who is known for being able to create his shot, right? How difficult is it to be able to develop?
First of all, I crossed the absolute shit out of Eric Hayes when he played at Maryland. Now, I'm not saying he was some kind of fucking defensive stud, but I crossed him up so bad he left his shoes on the floor, son. Let's just like keep this in perspective. Dude's got moves.
Okay.
Dude's got moves. All right.
Okay. T.O. had one.
I felt like I got
one good move in his career. But in all seriousness, how difficult is it to develop that off the dribble? Because that's the difference between Jabari being like a good role piece and like essentially Harrison Barnes, maybe a little bit better, right, and being a guy that is an all-star, a Paul George, a top 10 player in the NBA. The developing it off the dribble game. How hard is it to do that at this point in his career? RC, you go first.
I don't think he'll ever be a Paul George. It's funny when guys come in the gym and they always like, "Hey, coach, I want to work on my handle." Like, you either can do it or you can't, because there's a difference in being able to dribble well enough not to turn it over, and then there's something being well enough to dribble where you're creating space and all the secondary moves that go with it. He shoots it well enough to be able to play off the dribble, more straight lines and get a step back or so. But I would never put him in that Paul George category. Paul George can be a legit point guard.
Houston took Tari Eason. Houston took Tari Eason.
Wow, these picks are flying in right now. They just got on the clock. I like Tari Eason. I think he was probably the best player available. He might have been the best player available. A couple straight picks here. Houston, Jabari Smith and Tari Eason, Bari and Tari.
Mm-hmm. I will say this. I will say this too. When we did our mock draft show, we mocked Tari Eason to Houston, didn't we? Or am I making that up? I think I might.
Oh, you did. I remember it. You did.
Yeah, and we got crushed for that.
Really?
They were not the Houston fans were not a fan of us. Yeah, the Houston fans were not a fan. Look, I don't know how you guys feel about Tari Eason. I'm not convinced that he is the guy defensively that a lot of people think that he will be. He put up steals and he put up blocks, and he's going to be a playmaker, and he's an energetic guy. But if you go and you talk to some of those coaches in the SEC, RC, what they'll tell you is Tari Eason was a guy that you could go after, you could scout against, you could target, and that's a little bit of a red flag for me.
Oh, they've had some concerns, but he at times he was a willing defender, and at least if you can get a guy that's a willing defender, it matters. It helps you. So, in that league, he's not. No one is just shutting anybody down, but he needs to be a willing defender, and I think he'll do that. He has the size to be switchable parts, and I think it's a good fit for him with the type of team that they're putting together down there. They're getting the same side guys, and they got some big wings, some big guards down there.
All right, so we've got three guys I would consider wings. Maybe one of them is more guardy than the other two, but three guys that have gone off the board in the last four picks between 14 and 17. Ochai Agbaji, AJ Griffin, Tari Eason. I want to go around the horn quickly. Rob, who's the best pro 5 years from now from that group?
I'm going to say Ochai. I'm going to say Ochai is a guy that really thrives in that 3-and-D role. I think that we're going to look up and he's going to, I don't know if he's going to be quite as good as Buddy Hield, but I would not be surprised if he was kind of in that Buddy Hield mold. And I think he might end up being a better defensive player than Buddy Hield is, but he's going to be a very good shooter. He got drafted into a place where he can go out and do the job that he is best at. So I'm going with Ochai Agbaji.
RC, what do you think?
Ochai, I've been a big fan. I was screaming he was a lottery pick from the beginning. I think he is sure. You're sure about what you're getting from him, and that's what you're looking for at any point in the draft. I think a lot of these guys early are going off their potential. Now we're starting to get into positions of I need you to come in and be this guy, or I'm going to tuck you away and send you down as we get further down in the first round. But right there, he went to a Cleveland team that's up and coming team. I mean, they got some dudes that's legit, and so you add him in there day one. There's not a team in this draft that couldn't use a guy like that. That's a high level defender and a high level 3-point shooter, not just an average shooter.
Just to kind of play the devil's advocate, Tari Eason, even though you guys are down on his defense, he has all the measurables, and he plays with a certain tenacity that. There's a role for guys like that. If you look around the league, Montrezl Harrell, PJ Tucker plays like that, like dogs. Tari Eason, dog. So like there's room for guys like him. Will he be able to shoot it well enough? It's going to be tough to see, but alongside what they already have there in Houston with Porter and Jalen Green and now Jabari, you got to add a dog in the mix, especially on the defensive end. Those other three guys, Jabari will play defense, but it's his shooting that enamors you. With Tari Eason, it's his defensive potential that enamors you. So whether you talk about the most successful as far as scoring, I think it's Ochai, but Tari Eason could definitely carve out a role for a long time in the NBA.
And I will say this, I think the highest upside guy out of those three is AJ Griffin. If he gets the explosiveness back that he had when he was a junior in high school, if he can kind of figure out the defensive stuff, and if he ends up being the guy on the ball that we think he could end up being, there's a 20-point per game score in there, a 22-point per game score in there. We already said he's the best shooter in the draft, right? But the question is that explosiveness gone? Will it come back? If you get him healthy, will it come back when you get him in an NBA strength and conditioning program? I don't know.
It's scary though. He's also a guy. He's of those guys you just talked about. He also is a guy that presents some risk because he's all that team. He's surrounded by some dudes, and now you're going to go into a situation where now you're going to see. I don't know how well off the ball. We talk about off the dribble. What is he going to give you off the bounce? And I just don't know the fit. They got so many other guys there that are 3-and-D guys. I just think they're going to make a move at some point in this draft. We just haven't seen it yet. They're going to have to move some guys, or maybe they're just free agents that I'm unsure about.
Well, they still have the 26th pick as well. I believe the second consecutive year that Houston has had 3 picks early in the NBA draft. I watched a decent amount of the Houston Rockets last year, more than I'm proud to say on camera. And last year, Jayshawn Tate was basically asked to guard 5 guys at once because nobody else on the floor was. Right. Now he's going to have a little bit of help. Tari Eason's going to go out there and do that. While they've got all the offensive guys, at least they'll be a little bit more balanced now. We shall see. All right. So as soon as that pick comes in, that leaves us to the 18th overall pick in the first round, the Chicago Bulls. T.O., what do you got?
Kemba Walker and the Pistons are expected to discuss a contract buyout. So you're like, you got to be feeling pretty good now.
You guys, do you know how good it feels to have a competent GM running your franchise? I can't express to you the relief that I feel in my heart of hearts watching. I mean, guys, what a rebuild. It's taken 2 years, and here we are. Jaden Ivey, Jalen Duren, no Kemba Walker. What a win. Cheers to that. I'm not entirely sure what to think of this because I was duped by this conference all college basketball season, but Houston just went triple SEC. They just went Jabari Smith, Tari Eason, Ty Washington, back to back to back.
I thought you were going to say you were duped by the Big Ten all season.
The Big Ten was what it was, Tio. We know that. I can lie about it as long as I want to, but it was what it was. I like that. I mean, I think individually, all three of those guys went a few picks lower than they should have, quite frankly, including Jabari, not to go back to the top, but he was supposed to go 1. He goes 3. Tari Eason probably could have been a lottery pick. He goes 17. Ty Washington was mocked in the 15 to 20 range. He goes 29. That's a win for Houston.
Sun's up, boys. Just had to show you, so I wasn't lying. No, I agree with you. Greg.
I'm not. I can't get on the Ty bandwagon. I just don't see it.
He just needs to be solid. He's just.
Well,
solid.
but I will say this: if you're going to see it, it's going to be in that backup combo guard role, fitting in. He gets to come into Houston and kind of just fit in. So I think he is going to a situation that's conducive to him being successful. Is not necessarily your point guard, but just coming in as a combo guard, looking to get some buckets.